I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Today I want to talk to drinkers who want to quit but are having problems with cravings. So the first thing I want to do is talk about cravings in general. People have a lot of difficulty in the first few weeks putting up with the discomfort. Now, some of the discomfort is to do with alcohol, but I'd suggest that it's maybe 5-10%. That's about it. Most of the discomfort has got to do with habits. For the most part, your discomfort is to do with the massive changes that you're going to be making in your life. I mean, if you think about it, think about all the drinking that you do now, or think about all the thinking about the drinking that you do now. So when you quit, 95% of the work that you've got to do has got to be helping your unconscious to come to terms with not only not drinking, but not thinking about drinking anymore. So 95% of the discomfort that you feel is about adjusting your unconscious mind to not thinking about drinking anymore. You know, not thinking about drinking at the weekend, not thinking about drinking after work, not thinking about drinking in front of the TV at night, not thinking about drinking full stop. You know, most of the activities that we do during the day as a normal course of the day are done unconsciously without you even being aware that they're happening. You know, you're going through the whole motions of doing them, but you'd be thinking about something else. So, you know, take a simple thing like getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth. You wake up, you know, whatever way you wake up every morning, you get out of the bed, same side of the bed every morning, you stagger to your feet and you wobble into the bathroom, take a leak, stand in front of the mirror, and you start to brush your teeth, and you brush the sides of them, the backs of them, the fronts of them, and you could be thinking about any number of different things, but mostly you won't be thinking about brushing your teeth. Or you won't be thinking, I have to brush the back of my teeth now, I have to brush the front of my teeth, I have to brush the sides of my teeth, make sure I get there in between the cracks. You don't think that, you just do it automatically. And it's only if you actually get a pain in your mouth, you know, you get a pain from the toothbrush has hit a nerve or something, or you see a bit of blood on your toothbrush, or you spill some of the goop and spit down your front, or you squeeze out too much toothpaste and it goes all over the place. That's the only time that you actually become aware of what you're doing. Another example is when we're eating food. I mean, you get your meal, you sit down in front of the TV, or you sit down at the table, and if you're watching the TV, you'll be absorbed in what's going on there. You'll be chatting to your partner or your family at the table, and you'll really be munching and munching and munching without being really aware of the process of what you're doing. And it's only if something tastes bad, or, you know, something is not, you know, something hard, bit of bone in the food or something like that, that you actually become aware of what you're doing. I mean, you know, if something starts to taste fishy when it's not supposed to be fishy, when there's no fish on the plate, then, you know, you suddenly become aware of the food on your plate. If you're munching away on strawberries, for instance, and you feel something moving in your mouth, then, you know, your instant reaction is to spit it out really quickly, maybe even gag, and you'll certainly check every single one of the strawberries before you continue eating. It's exactly the same thing when you're drinking. If you go into a bar, for instance, and you sit down at the counter, you might be conscious of that first pint coming up and be conscious of the first sip because you're thirsty and you want to quench your thirst. When I used to drink Guinness, for instance, there's a whole drama about Guinness. There's the double pour and there's the whole thing settling and stuff. So the barmaid comes up and she fills up maybe half of the glass, 3/4 of the glass with Guinness. She pulled the tap forward and she put it onto the counter in front of the tap and let it settle. And once it's settled, it's gone black and there's a creamy head on it, then she'll take the glass up again, put it underneath the tap and push the tap backwards, and there's a slower flow. And it basically brings the the Guinness back up again, fills it up to the top, and puts it down in front of you. Now, the inexperienced guy who's drinking Guinness will take that straight away and take a sip out of it, but the more experienced guy, the connoisseur, will wait until it's settled again, all adding to this anticipation. So you're watching the pint and you're taking notice of what's happening, and you're involved in this drama that is very real, and it's contrived by Guinness over many years, and it's just a brilliant marketing thing. It's a brilliant thing to keep people hooked into it. But that first taste, when you crack the head of the pint, you crack the creamy head, you might notice that. But then after that, once this next pint comes along, you'll order the next pint before the first pint is drunk, so you don't get that same drama with the second pints. And your hand is just automatically going down, lifting the pint, drinking, lifting the pint, drinking, putting it back on the counter, and this whole process will now go on automatically until it's time to go home, until you're pissed. Well, my point is that it's all trained behaviour. It's all a bit like Pavlov and his drooling dog. It's all been trained into you since the first time you went into the bar, and every time you go into the bar again and repeat the process, it just reinforces the whole thing over and over and over again. So by the time you get to the later stages of your life, it's done so automatically that you don't even notice it. Like I say, you might notice those first anticipatory tastes and sips of the beer or the Guinness or whatever it is that you're drinking, but for the rest of the night, then it just happens outside your awareness. Your awareness is on something else. It's on the match on the TV, or the conversation that you're having with your buddy, or the girls over in the corner, or the fact that you need to go to the toilet to have a pee. And you're drawn back to the Guinness. It's in your awareness, sort of in the fringes of your awareness, but it's not there. You don't concentrate on it. So your hand will just go down and be reaching for the pint and bring it up to your lips and take a sip and taste it and swallow it without. The whole thing is just done unconsciously. It's only when you go into the pub then, when you're trying to stop drinking and your arm reaches down for the pint that is no longer there, or maybe you've got a glass of tonic water there. Your hand reaches down for the tonic water, takes a sip, and there's something really, really wrong with this, the taste is just totally wrong. It's just not right. The whole feeling in the mouth is not right. The feeling in your brain is not right. The feeling in your body is not right. The whole thing, then you notice it. And you notice every sip. And you notice that it's not Guinness, it's not beer, it's not this, it's not the other. For anyone who's ever smoked and quit smoking, I've been there. They say one of the hardest things is figuring out what to do with your hands once you've quit. And it's very true. It's mainly because you reach for a cigarette once or twice, 3 times, maybe even 4 times every single waking hour. You reach for the cigarette, you put it into your mouth, you spark it up and you smoke. As soon as you get the desire for a nicotine hit, you reach down for your packet of fags, spark it up, get your hit, forget about it. You get the nicotine desire again, do the same process. When you quit, the desire for the nicotine doesn't go away. It's still there. So you get the desire, you feel like you want to reach down, but there's no packet of fags there anymore, there's no cigarettes, I used to roll cigarettes, so that was it was a ritual in itself, so there was none of that, it was all gone. But the nicotine was still there. The habit of doing it was there long after the nicotine had left my body. Just that habit of doing that two times an hour, I'd say, in my case. So you'd be doing that 20, 30 times in a day over so many years. That is such a hard habit to break. It's not the nicotine. Consider drinking at home in front of the TV. Was one of my favourite things. I'd sit there, I'd have a little table beside me, have the remote control on it, I'd have maybe some snacks, and I'd have my can of beer or my glass of wine, and I'd just be reaching down for it, sipping away for the whole night. You know, I'd be watching the TV or I'd be chatting to my partner, wouldn't even be thinking about the alcohol. I'd be just reaching down, lifting the glass, taking a sip, putting it back on the table, reaching down, lifting the glass, taking a sip, putting it back on the table, all unconscious. And how many times did I do that in a night? You know, for I suppose 10, maybe 15 times per can or per glass of wine. So maybe 100, 150 times every single night, reaching down, taking a sip, putting it back on the table, automatically. And it's not only that process of reaching down and lifting it up to your lips and taking a sip and putting it back on the table. You're aware of it in the fringes of your mind, whether how full the can is or how full the glass is or how empty it is, depending on what way you think. You're aware of your taste, you're taking it into your mouth and you're rolling it around your mouth, and you're, you know, that kind of thing before you swallow it down. There's a whole process involved in it that you are unconsciously part of. That happens unconsciously every time, so it's a continuous thing. You know, with those 150 sips that you're taking all night through, there's also all this other stuff going around that's associated with the drink in your mind as well. As well as that, you'll be keeping an eye on the overall volume of alcohol that you've got. You know, you won't necessarily be thinking about how much you've drunk, but you'll be thinking about how much you've got left. You know, if you've got maybe 2 bottles of wine to go through in the night, you won't take much notice of it with the first bottle. Once that's going down, it's nice and you don't think about it. As soon as you open that second bottle of wine and start pouring it out, you'll have this awareness in the fringes of your mind about just how much is left in that bottle and how much you've got left before you run out. Maybe you should take a walk down to the off license. Do you feel drunk enough yet? There's a whole load of alcohol related thoughts that are going through your mind all the time, unconsciously. You're not even aware of it, but they're happening all the time. Every time you drink, there's a similar train of thoughts going on. And the more you drink, the longer you've been drinking, the more rooted these thoughts become into your thinking, the more persistent they'll be and the more habitual they become. And I'm not even talking about the personal little rituals that we go through every time we drink. You know, that's another thing altogether. If you think about it, when you stop drinking, most people talk about it in terms of alcohol cravings and symptoms. But it's all that thinking that changes, all that unconscious reaching for the glass, sipping from the glass, tasting and swallowing, all the calculations that you're making unconsciously in your mind about how much alcohol is left and how much you've got to go, and all those feelings of being drunk, and all that is gone. You know, there's such an emptiness left. You know, if you're talking about drinking in the evening from maybe 5-6 hours every night, that's a long fucking time. You know, that's 42 hours in a week. It's a big hole. Plus you've got all the thinking beforehand about the drinking that you're going to do. That's all gone. You know, as silly as this might sound, your brain just hasn't caught up with the fact that you've quit. You know you have to quit. You know you have quit. But your subconscious mind is still thinking those thoughts. It's still reaching for the glass. It's still expecting to get the taste at the end of the day, because it's such a habitual part of your everyday life that's what it expects. You know, the unconscious mind, the automatic part of your brain, is automatically trying to do what it's automatically supposed to do automatically. You know, all this automaticity is going on, but it's getting nowhere. It's hitting a brick wall every time. So your mind is constantly being made aware of what is not there anymore. So while beforehand it was happily churning away at this unconscious life of yours, this automatic life, doing it very happily, now all of a sudden it's being made aware, bang, 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 all the time, that this is no longer there. There's no more drink there, you know. You know, it's really like when you get a total bad toothache. You know, when you get a toothache that just takes over everything and you can't think about anything straight and your whole life seems like it's turned upside down because you've got this thing in the front of your awareness. And the toothache in this case is the hole in your life that's been left without alcohol and without all the thoughts. And your mind gets fidgety at this, and it gets concerned about it, and it starts to become anxious, and it starts to become stressed out. And basically you're interpreting the stress as what we know is everyone saying to us, you know, it's symptoms and it's cravings and it's side effects of not having alcohol anymore. And nobody knows what those words fucking mean anyway, you know, so it's basically easy, well, no, it's the drink, it's because I'm not having the drink. But it's all those thoughts, it's all that habit that you're not giving into anymore, you know, you've just changed it all, that's what's happening. So it's the brutality of these emotions and feelings and sensations and thoughts that is the beauty of the system. And it's this beautiful system that is going to be your ally when you're trying to quit. You just have to give it time. That's what it's going to take, a lot of time, 4 or 5 weeks, you know. The thing that you have to do is you have to build new habits that are going to replace the old habits. You know, you make it so difficult for yourself if you don't try and replace sitting in front of the TV and drinking with something else. If you carry on sitting in front of the TV, your mind still expects all this stuff to happen. So by bringing new things into your life, by trying to establish new habits, your mind will eventually cop onto the fact that you're trying to implement new habits, you're trying to implement new things, and it'll try and make those into habits as soon as it can. And the way that it does that is through repetition. If you do something over and over and over again, your mind sort of all of a sudden thinks, well, okay, this is something I can turn into a habit now. This is something that I can do. Your brain, your mind, your unconscious mind will gradually adapt to the new habits that you're making in your life, and it will get rid of the old habits for the most part. And it does it very slowly. I mean, it does it day by day by day. It actually does it moment by moment by moment, but it's too slow for you to notice any major differences, any differences to pop up into your awareness. So you're really unaware of these very slow changes, but it is happening on a moment by moment basis. And one of the most important changes, one of the best changes that you can make when you're trying to stop drinking is to change, or at least alter radically, your environment. So the things that you do every day, if you can, you know, move to another country or move to another city. And I know most people are not going to be able to do that. I talk about my changes, the changes that I made in my own environment in Stop Drinking Alcohol 58. The next best thing you can do is to, once you've decided that you're going to quit, is to take yourself away on vacation. Take yourself away on holidays. If you can get away for 2 or 3 weeks, you're in different surroundings, no more drinking buddies around, you're relaxed, you're at ease with yourself. I tell you, you can make a huge difference. You know, if you can't do that, if you can't get away on holidays, then do what you can in your own environment to change your routines and your rituals. You know, try not to sit in front of the TV every night if that's what you've been doing, or, you know, have a look at your own personal drink-related rituals and try and change those out. You know, if it helps you to get rid of the alcohol out of your home. It helps to get rid of all the paraphernalia, then do all that kind of stuff, you know. Avoid your drinking buddies, avoid going to the pub, you know, avoid as much alcohol related stuff as you can. So I hope that you can see that it's really about shifting your mindset away from the symptoms and the cravings and the side effects that you're going to be facing, that it's not really anything to do with that, you know, not much. That it's a lot to do with the way you think about alcohol, the way you have thought about alcohol in the past, and the way those thoughts are still a huge part of your life. And it's those thoughts, it's the unconscious, automatic part of your life that you've got to change. And it doesn't take that long. Like I say, a month, 4 weeks, and it gradually, every day, it's going to get better and better and better and easier and easier and easier to handle. Your body is going to do its best to try and normalize things as quickly as possible. It's how you basically survive in this life, is your unconscious mind. Your mind wants to try and make everything as automatic as it can. Otherwise you would just go mad. So I hope that's given you a different perspective to think about. If you've got any questions at all about that or anything else that I talk about in these videos, and please don't hesitate to give us a shout. You can reach me either through YouTube or go over onto the website. My email address is kevin@alcoholmastery.com, or go over to the new forum when it's up. That should be up in the next week or two. So until next time, all the best. I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Onwards and upwards.